Take a look at the information on screen. If you have any issue with anything mentioned, it's probably best not to watch the video. Keep yourself safe. This video is a look back at each individual I've currently covered on this channel, essentially my final opinions about every single one of them, and all the information from my involvement with them, and what they've currently done. Essentially to roll them out of future conversations when they concern myself. And of course, as usual, do not harass anyone mentioned in this video. It won't help the situation at hand, and it's likely these people will never mature. There will be some issues with the quality of this video, specifically when it comes to the audio. I have speaking issues due to my neurodivergence, and change the sound of my voice due to personal circumstances. The audio balancing may be off, especially because I don't own a powerful microphone, and the editing may be off as well, as I'm not necessarily advanced, so I apologize if that becomes irritatable. Hey guys, it's Tally Pesto, Dibs number 1. CBM, a YouTuber within the Invadersm community who has a large platform, essentially posts his animation videos, art, and clips when within the show. Of course from other fandoms as well here and there, though their most notable characteristic is that they're known to be a shipper. Specifically an individual in fandom spaces who imagines two characters within a romantic relationship. There is nothing inherently wrong with that of course, but this will be a key detail for further information. CBM would get into a situation with another YouTuber, Nida. From what I can infer, since I wasn't around during the first 3 events, CBM had been stalking Nida using alternative accounts commenting on her post with malicious intent.
Third time I have made another account. Guess what? I'm back, bro. She really thinks she can get rid of me? I'm everywhere. Before we get into the video, I have recorded some information about her on my second account before she hit me from her channel. Since I'm Dib, I typed in, "Not my sister," and know what they responded with? Literally nothing. I commented, "Randy likes my sister?" and they still didn't respond.
The reason for this was shipping preferences, specifically OCX canon and of course characters within Invadersm.
So since I'm Dib, I typed in, "Not my sister," going through their stupid OCs until I found this. And I commented, "Randy likes my sister?" And then I typed in, "As Dib himself, I do not approve." Cause what the fuck was that, bro?
Nida is a multi-fandom YouTuber, known for making OC, X-canon content, and OC content in general. Nida has stated that she is an adult, which is the major argument people have against her. The reason in particular comes from the fact that she is an OC X-canon content creator and also is in communities that are inherently meant for younger audiences. Which I just want to preface that there is nothing inherently wrong with that. People are allowed to enjoy whatever they like as long as it's not harmful in any way, shape, or form. CBM 9 months ago from today would make 2 videos. This is an over an idol, and over one video now I have a better version of me. These videos were essentially made out of spite for one reason or another, and we'll be going over why that is and what they contain. This is an overnighter is essentially a video making fun of the content Nida makes. CBM stating directly in the start of the video that it's cringy.
Oh my god, I'm so excited to rant about this cringe-ass Invader Zim fan.
This will be an important keyword. If you know anything about the ideals of cringe culture, you'll know it's based off of harassment, full of mocking, shaming, and bullying individuals who behave in a way deemed embarrassing. A large majority of the individuals that are targeted for this behavior are usually from communities of self-expression or are neurodivergent. Cringe in itself is a subjective term, though individuals will band together enforcing social boundaries, and those who do not fall into those boundaries are dehumanized and in some cases discriminated against. Within the video, CBM makes multiple claims insinuating that they and Nida have a history.
Third time I have made another account. She really thinks she can get rid of me? Before she hit me from her channel. Anyone of this YouTuber thingy majiggy? You really thought you could hide me? Huh. But credits to Letty for letting me... Wait, what? Credits to Letty, I think that's how you say it, for letting me know about this YouTuber again. Thank you so much.
Within this clip, you'd also notice that they involve another individual, Letty. Letty is a like-minded individual to CBM. Considering she constantly interacts with CBM's content and has contributed to this video, it's likely that CBM and their content has influenced her in some way, which will be very important for later. Going back to the major point about the context, specifically about Nida being targeted due to being an OCX canon shipper, this video contains some evidence.
Oh, since I'm Dib, I typed in, "Not my sister." And know what they responded with? Literally nothing. And I was scrolling through their stupid OCs until I found this. And I commented, "Randy likes my sister?" And they still didn't respond.
Like I said before, there is nothing inherently wrong with having personal preferences, specifically when they don't promote or contribute to harm. Though unfortunately, CBM's subjective opinion only stems from hate and spite over something that isn't inherently an issue, which shows how they generally cannot stand when something exists that isn't theirs to enjoy, as they are not obligated to watch the content but if ignored the request since it is not a concern, and went on with their life. The reason I bring this up specifically is because it did affect CBM's community. CBM's community is an echo chamber, everyone having the same ideals and no new ideas, enabling negative behavior and of course leaving CBM to not being able to take constructive criticism. One of the many shared opinions of this community being that OCX canon is inherently a bad thing if it isn't something that they personally prefer for themselves, which ties back to my other claim. The only argument they have for this is that it's weird or cringy, which are once again subjective opinions and natural human response. Going into the CDR claims because this is an important part of this situation as a whole. CDR, abbreviation of Semantic Romance, a fandom concept, is a form of dark shipping, specifically because it contains a relationship between a canonic child
I'm 12 years old
and adult.
Random question. From an Urkin perspective, is Zim supposed to be an adult or a child?
Zim was always an adult. He's. You remember Dennis the Menace?
Yeah.
It was like a little boy, and his nemesis was this old man. You know, I'm no Dennis the Menace fan, but I always thought that was funny. It was. Yeah, we never really like explicitly stated it in the show. Never felt like we had to. But yeah, Zim is an alien who lived an entire life. Like he's like a grown man who's come down and he fights children. Like that's how dumb he is. You know, that's how just stupid he is. He gets embroiled with this little child's, this child rivalry. But
Yeah.
that's
I'm worried to be fantasizing about a romantic relationship that contains a child and adult, which will contain specific dynamics considering that context. You would inherently have to tolerate pedophilia or even condone it in a sense, considering that is the dynamic you chose to romanticize. This is something I would like you to hold on to, because it will be very important for later in the video. CBM spreads a lot of misinformation. Misinformation is very dangerous, especially when it comes to the fact that CBM has a child audience. Children can be very impressionable, and as you've seen, CBM's content has been influencing them. Here are some things that I debunked in my last video on CBM.
And I also commented, also dude, not gonna lie, everyone's name in Invaderism is an alternative for their real names. So it shouldn't be their full names, it should be shortened to 3 letters, which it should be.
CBM states that within the series, every character has a 3-letter alias, which is not correct, with characters who do not apply to this rule, like Professor Membrane, Miss Bitters, Unchi, Zeta, Clembrain, Minimoose, Mr. Elliot, Mr. Dookie, Tallest Spork, Tallest Miyuki, Tallest Red, Tallest Purple, and much more.
This video is long, so I'm gonna speed it up. Typed in, as Dib himself, I do not approve. Cause what the fuck was that, bro?
Throughout my viewing of the show, there has been no clarification of Dave having distaste towards any romantic relationships, which it does include Gretchen, though in a specific episode he does show clear signs of not understanding romantic relationships.
How some guys can be like, oh well, you ship Zatter, etc, etc. Well, when I was being a weirdo, I was looking up some things and I found out that I can decide Zim's age, because it said that. It said fans can decide Zim's age. That's what Joan Vasquez said in a type of conference thingy. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna decide I'm giving you too much information.
There is zero correlation from this claim and confirmation from showrunners. In this case, Google is an invalid source due to it comparing information gathered from invalid sources, such as Reddit, the wiki. A lot of information is gathered from debates or is extremely outdated. This aligns with what I said about misinformation earlier. So in order to completely debunk these claims, here are contradictions to the statement you just shared with clips of Jonan Vasquez.
spotlight on how so many of the fans are watching the show long. It's possible to watch a show long. They say that once you make something, it's no longer yours, it's in the hands of determines it. Also wrong.
Okay. Random question. From an Urkin perspective, is Zim supposed to be an adult or a child?
He's always an adult.
While doing research, make sure you view the sources. Not everything you see on Google is completely accurate. After this, CBM would get a bit of backlash, even losing subscribers at some point. Viewers stated that what CBM was doing was cyberbullying and that they were being inherently malicious, which isn't an incorrect assumption considering their tone. Though of course CBM would think otherwise, which is essentially the target point of the second video. Within this video, CBM talks about an impersonator that claims to be morally superior to them. I'm not going to justify the user's actions due to the fact that they were being blatantly malicious. There was zero benefit to their action, and it didn't help with the situation at hand. Another thing that takes place in this video is CBM essentially apologizing, though I wouldn't consider it that. They would gloss over the accusations, stating that they were only sharing an opinion, despite the fact that they shared no constructive criticism and were blatantly stalking and harassing Nida, refusing to take accountability for their own actions and trying to play it off as a joke, which is a common loophole that those who discriminate against others use in order to justify their actions, which essentially worked as CBM fans were none the wiser. As I said in Echo Chamber, these videos are lost media being deleted by CBM after backlash. the only footage of them coming directly from my videos, and unfortunately there's a lot of background music within this footage, so I apologize if that becomes irritatable in any way.
Making so much videos over a thing that was 5 days ago. Because it's not serious. I may be a little immature, not so immature that I'll make so many videos about this one person. I wouldn't make another YouTube channel. I might have been rude or harmful in my video that I recently posted. I was speaking my mind. I wasn't trying to cyberbully, as I said in the beginning. Oh my god, I'm so excited to rant about this cringe-ass Invader Zim fan.
The main point was essentially those weren't my intentions to spark my tone, and harassment of the individual in question is not important, and those that take issue with my negative actions are being overdramatic. See how none of that takes accountability for what they've done? It essentially does matter because individuals were harmed during the making of your content. Not just Nada, but those who express themselves in the same way and your fans, as they may become insecure and try to fit your stereotype. Putting into consideration that your fans are young and the content that they consume helps them learn. Taking in content that discriminates against and dehumanizes people with certain interests will do them nothing but harm, as it will condition them to condone this behavior, as well as enable them to exhibit similar behavior. CBM seems to care a lot more about how they're perceived rather than the harm they inflict on others, which is relatively dangerous considering that they have a massive audience. Only valid criticism CBM makes towards Nada is her shipping Shadow and Maria.
No, stop, Maria is 12, stop, please.
Yet at the same time not mentioning that it was inherently insensual, nor focusing on the fact that it's inherently dangerous, as Sonic has a large child fanbase, and this may blur the lines between platonic and familial relationships for them. They only mention the large age gap, remember that now. It essentially wasn't a coincidence of Nida seeing her post on TikTok and wondering why the comments were turned off. She told me that she was essentially being cyberbullied, which led me down this small rabbit hole. After the videos were posted, CBM had a lot to say, refusing to take accountability, spreading misinformation, and of course going back to their echo chamber, which validates my claim of stating that they don't know how to handle criticism. Despite the fact that those actions were their own and they have set a whole other group of people that they had no obligation to spread a negative opinion about. They have a right to be angry when all you did was stalk and harass someone all because you found their content slightly weird or out of the ordinary. You were just spreading hatred. That's all that led up to. There is no benefit. Getting backlash for distasteful behavior that you cannot find yourself to own up to is normal. This is a public platform. People have a right to criticize you over harmful behavior. CBM would make multiple posts after the situation, continuing the same behavior, harassing individuals over essentially nothing at the end of the day, receiving the same energy back, and of course signs of denial. Though nothing of note until Zuri, a stated to be 11-year-old at the time, is someone I told not to indulge in the CBM situation, mostly because it was wrapped up for now, and of course CBM's previous behavior. He went against my wishes and commented on a post by CBM, pointing out their blatant hypocrisy, as well as a small post criticizing them on their behavior. Within this post, Zuri would allege that CBM is an ableist that fetishizes sterile yaoi. The reason child is in quotation marks is because Zim is canonically an adult. He would put up a few images backing up his claims. Zuri shows a screenshot essentially of CBM downplaying the fact that I have a neurodivergent condition. For more context, within a few replies from CBM, they stated that one of their comments was sarcastic. Most individuals with neurodivergent conditions typically do not understand sarcasm or figurative language in general, specifically because we expect people to be direct and tone isn't very clear, especially in text. They were insulting me about this, Yet when an explanation is given, they do not want to acknowledge it. The reason this is ableist is because individuals like me cannot control how they read intent. Refusing to accommodate for a disorder is a form of ableism. They'd rather be insulting and hostile rather than try and find a solution. In the context of CBM's reply, they find it bothersome because their insult is now a form of discrimination. Remember, CBM doesn't like being viewed in a negative light, and if their community ever acknowledged or found out they were being inherently ableist, their reputation would be soiled. The next image comes from their description, using the word SPED, which is considered an ableist slur. Despite it meaning special education, just like how the R word used to be a medical term, it started being used to dehumanize and discriminate against people with mental disabilities. CBM has a history of slur usage, especially when it comes to using ones they can't reclaim, such as the slur for exclusively gay men. Slurs are specifically used to discriminate against people, especially in a negative context, most of them being killed or tortured for multiple years throughout history. Stating that it's a joke doesn't change what it's used for. A slur is a slur, especially when you can't reclaim them. She also has been shown to downplay neurodivergent people in multiple ways, specifically with autism, using misrepresentative stereotypes, specifically the silly autism phenomenon, which is a huge problem in today's society, especially on the internet. The fetishizing child yaoi claim, on the other hand, comes from the fact that CBM posts sexualized content of young characters, specifically in elementary school. The image Sari shows is still up on her YouTube channel, by the way. In this image, it is very clear that they look like children, which this isn't new behavior from CBM, something we will touch up on later. Siri would comment on one of my community posts asking if I could check into this, which I did. Apparently, similarly with Nida, CBM has been stalking Yuri using alternative accounts you may recall. Interestingly, CBM does call Zuri a dark shipper, which is blatant hypocrisy, and also it doesn't see the problem with stalking and harassing very young children. For me, as something that is subjective when we all know is a blatant fact, evidence of this being CBM's fault comes from both their art and self-sabotage. Despite the evidence being very clear, they try to diminish the very idea of this being an alt account, very poorly notably. I was eventually able to get them to understand their wrongdoings when it came to harassment and stalking, which they stated they would do better in the future. Whether that stays concrete or not, time will tell. Of course, given what happened, Zuri has a right to be upset, with other things being held on top already. They would make another short criticizing CBM's recent post, notably just making more accusations and, of course, making fun of their horrendous behavior. This talks about CBM's sexualization of Dib and putting him in adult situations, despite the fact that within the canon Dib is 11 to 12 years old, and the only time he was featured as an adult, he was inherently childish as he was still in that state of mind. Dib being a child is an important part of his character, considering the creator used his childhood to create him.
Grew up in San Jose, California. Real normal. Like, miserably normal. I lived in such a boring, suburban universe. I watched every show that was about aliens. I loved the idea that the world was more than this little place when I was a kid that I was trapped in. This is where everything comes from. Me just watching movies, watching cartoons, playing, being in my neighborhood, and just dreaming stuff up. I like when I can see an actual personality in someone's work. When I watch other shows, I want to feel the person coming through. That's my favorite stuff. I want to see that they're making something that could only have come from them and looks like them and sounds like them. All these characters are like you. Absurdist versions of you. Zim is that confidence that just knows no end. Zim is definitely that little me that wanted so badly to find these things and go see.
Matter of fact, in a video where I explain this, CBM uses an alt account to comment on that video, meaning that they do acknowledge this and have heard this before with evidence, meaning that essentially CBM creates CSAM material, CSAM. And considering the way they conversated with Zuri, it wouldn't be far-fetched to say that they are a danger to younger children. considering that there is no benefit from making this content, and there's no reason to in general, because what is the appeal of sexualizing a 12-year-old, putting them in adult situations such as substance abuse and glorifying it, especially considering that children have died of this already? Unfortunately, it's not just ignorance anymore. It's doing this knowing the context with contempt. You have the knowledge yet still continue to participate. Excusing it as satire or jokes isn't going to help you, because you know these things are serious. People are harmed by these things, and it happens all the time. You are desensitizing your audience to jokes about serious topics, and considering your influence, even enabling them to do the same, which is something that I did warn you about. You had all the resources. There is no excuse. You watch those videos, you do those things. This is an issue you created for yourself. CPM is one of those cases where somebody is desensitized by internet culture at a very young age. Of course, being impressionable themselves, they often follow what everyone else is doing, no matter how horrendous it is. If everyone else is doing, why can't I, is their mentality, and they use it to contribute to large issues, enabling and influencing those around them just the same. This is essentially a problem in their development, unable to grow as a person, staying the same, because they believe if they change it won't help anything, it won't make a difference because there is so many more, than being unable to withdraw from unhealthy habits and mature. Though they don't want to be seen in this bad light, they don't want to look like a bad person, which is why no matter what, they will never take accountability, unable to fix the problems they created, and unable to help themselves, sticking to what they find appealing and gratifying for them. Comfort over healing, essentially. CBM is a degenerate. Amethyst or Scourge 271 is an individual who made an Invader Zim fan series with their own original characters. Concerns would arise from behind the scenes, along with the topics in the episodes, specifically character dynamics and taboo subjects. Scourge would admit to finding adult and child relationships appealing. This would start the situation. Simsam is the individual who introduced me to the situation and essentially the one who had concerns in the first place, making a lot of claims about Surge, some of them possibly coming from behind the scenes, and others that can be directly proven. They essentially don't take issues with these subjects, and in hindsight therefore wouldn't know what makes them bad, misinterpreting them and romanticizing them. Scourge is a writer with their own series. Bringing up topics or discussing issues they don't fully understand can be explicitly harmful to both victims and people who consume the content. Specifically the youth, considering that Invader Zim is a show with a target audience of children. Children are very impressionable and are still in a developmental stage of their life. Even if her series is specifically made for those type of viewers, considering the fact that Invader Zim is a kid show, they would likely be attracted to her content, which is inherently true, and we do have proof of that. When issues like these are portrayed in this way, people will become desensitized to it and likely romanticize it in a similar way, condoning and tolerating abuse, which is bad for multiple reasons, as it may enable them to do it themselves or to endure that type of abuse from others. Simsam would request I make a video on Scourge, telling me about abusive dynamics that they found appealing that I would find proof for.
I'm sorry about the background noise. It's like... Okay, here it is. So cute. Yeah. It's gonna be questionable in this in my mind. What is that?
After making my video, Scourge would respond. One of her voice actors, Hex Perplex, would comment on my video and tell me about her thoughts afterwards. Essentially, she said that I was correct, though she had an issue with my tone. For some reason, I won't comment on this considering it is a subjective opinion, but you also have to realize that people are going to be angry considering the actions. Tolerance and condonance of abuse isn't okay, which isn't a social construct because people have been harmed by it. Choosing to romanticize it despite that fact and being told about that is not okay no matter the context. Adults and children have specific dynamics, you can't change that. The same way obsession causes mental damage. Ignorance is bliss, but when you're directly told about these being inherently wrong, having that knowledge, it is your own choice whether you choose to neglect that or not. That was your choice and that was your responsibility. A harmful one that affects others. People have a right to be upset, especially if they were exposed to that content. I believe Scourge is on a similar wavelength to CBM, being desensitized by certain harmful ideologies and choosing not to mature out of their own volition, choosing to walk that path despite people telling them it is inherently wrong and you are directly harming other people. The only difference between Scourge and CBM is that Scourge is an adult, an individual with a life experience. There is no excuse for this action. Though I can appreciate that Scourge does understand where their fault was, I want to see change, just as much as anyone else would. This is harmful behavior, not just for other people, but for themselves. Continuing on would only do more damage. Dave the Best is a semi-YouTuber. The situation at hand was why he had any eyes on him at all. He doesn't necessarily have a fan base, only user who sends him any support at all being an individual known as Dave the Best Fan. Though people have speculated it to be an alternative account, Dave makes community posts, sometimes ranting out his own feelings or making posts of his desires, which is definitely too much to be sharing on a public platform. He has also posted CSAM material of his ex-girlfriend, who is 16 years old. Dave has stated himself that he is 18 years old. Though there has been some people saying that he may be 19, where they got that information, I'm not entirely sure. Though considering Dave has lied about his age before to seem younger, it wouldn't be too far-fetched. The reason he does this is likely so he doesn't get treated as harshly for his actions to a fashion girlfriend, his ex. Fashion Girlfriend is a content creator in the Friday Night Fucking community, making videos and posts that include her recolored persona based off of Girlfriend, a character from the FNF canon. Fashion Girlfriend is a user that Dave has been sexually harassing, of course making explicit material of her character that she uses to represent herself. Making obsessive statements demanding that she'll be his girlfriend, talking about her like she's essentially his property in a sense. Making sex towards her, and stating that it's her fault he commits these acts. This is concerning for a plethora of reasons. Specifically because Fashion Girlfriend is a minor and has shown that she does not consent to these things. Nor can she because she is not in that state of mind yet. It's genuinely affecting her mental health and she has shown that. This is repeated behavior. Viewing a message from before about his and Fashion Girl's breakup, he explicitly states that they broke up because he did not care about her feelings, which is something he continues to do by committing acts of sexual abuse towards her. He also does acknowledge his wrongdoing, apologizing for it, which means he does understand what he's doing is wrong, yet continues to do it anyway. He has malicious intent. He would find himself in the spotlight once GT Racer in 1987 made a post addressing his behavior. GT Racer is a commentator that uses Sonic the Hedgehog specifically from the Sonic Mania Adventure series to represent himself. He makes videos about harmful behavior, his own personal opinions, and cars at some point. GT Racer has a considerably large audience. Though of course like any other individual, he does have his flaws. He's able to accept them and do better in the future. Similarly to Nida, he is an acquaintance, and the reason for my video on Dave the Best. Dave didn't take this well, and it should be noted that Dave doesn't take criticism well, only watering it down to the insults and jokes made about him. It gets to him, genuinely, yet he still continues to have harmful behavior, essentially wanting to get worse. Even making threats to harm others, such as hamburger, cheeseburger, or a potato.
Also threatened me that he was gonna make NSFW art of me.
Threatening to make sexual content of him, essentially revenge porn. Harming others is a common tactic sexual abusers use, as they'll do anything for their own gratification, and I doubt that Potato is the only one he's made these threats to. As of recently, there have been no updates from Dave the Best, and his description reads like this. This is very cryptic, so I'm not exactly sure if there is a negative or positive connotation, though hoping on positive, which might be a bit too much credit.
So very recently, Dave has made 2 posts. One of them is basically an apology post saying that he's going to quit YouTube and the internet entirely due to his actions, and that he does understand what he did was harmful, and he apologizes to the people he has hurt throughout this, specifically a Fashion Girlfriend, and then the second post is him addressing that he is going to off himself. And within the comment section we have two different things going on. It's people that are essentially telling him that he should off himself, and they're essentially laughing about it, which is fucking disgusting. For multiple reasons. You can understand that, yes, this person was bad and they did bad things, but telling somebody to fucking off themselves is genuine fucking creepy ass behavior. It's fucking, you're a fucking loser. Because obviously you wanted something bad to happen to this person. You had malicious intentions when saying these things. Whether they're a bad person or not. And that's creepy and that's weird. And you should be ashamed of yourselves. And then there's other people like addressing it, sort of. And then others that are just kind of telling him that he shouldn't be doing this because he can grow and change as a person and doesn't need to go through those lengths. And that's just kind of what's been going on right now. I don't have any updates. Some people are assuming that this is bait, but I'm not going to assume that since we don't know Dave as a person, and hopefully he isn't actually, hopefully his attempt has failed and maybe he is going through hospitalization.
One thing that ties all these people together that I have noticed, as they all acknowledge their bad behavior yet are unwilling to take accountability for it. Rather, it's to save their reputation or to continue doing the harmful behaviors, throwing themselves under the bus for essentially nothing at the end of the day. It was their own actions that led to this, and they are unwilling to accept that, which is disappointing for multiple reasons. As they continuously harm people and are influencing their audiences, and they have been told this multiple times, yet they choose not to get better, making it the responsibility of others to hold them accountable for their own actions, when they can stop at any time because nothing is telling them they can't. There's no obligation to continue this behavior, and that's why it's inherently bad, because they continue to do it, and they get zero benefit from it. It is your responsibility as a content creator to hold yourself accountable for the actions that you decide to commit on your own public platform. It's your job to do research on these subjects beforehand, and the absence of others does not dictate your behavior. One thing I notice when people cover these situations is the lack of research and understanding, making insults that have zero relevance to the topic at hand, such as racist comments or comparing them to other abusers who've done much worse. This doesn't help the situation, even if it's for entertainment purposes. Racism is inexcusable, nor is making jokes about child exploitation. Once again, it's your responsibility as content creators to do the right thing, especially when handling situations that are this serious. People are getting hurt. Pick your pants up and grow a pair.